Black Widow is the latest movie from Marvel Studios and stars Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, and Rachel Weisz. The film follows Natasha Romanoff after the events of Civil War, where she is left on the run after taking sides with Captain America at the end of that film. She gets caught up with her sister, played by Florence Pugh, where they learn of a conspiracy related to their past starting to take form. They get their family back together to figure out what exactly is happening. So Black Widow wasn't a movie that I was really looking forward to. Even like when it was supposed to come out last year, I thought the trailers looked good and stuff like that, but the thing was that it was a prequel and it took place between Civil War and Infinity War, and we already knew that Black Widow died in Avengers Endgame, so it was kind of obvious that she was going to make it through the whole movie. I just didn't think it was that necessary of a movie, and after seeing it, I will say that it probably should have come out 5 years ago. It really does feel like it takes place between Civil War and Infinity War. There really is no reason for it to be coming out now. That being said, I really enjoyed this movie, and I mean that sincerely. So let me start with the really positive things first. Scarlett Johansson is great in this movie, but, I mean, we kind of already knew that. She's basically the same as she is in all the other movies. I really like her character in all the other movies, and here she is really good. It's very interesting, too, to learn about her story with being a secret agent or a spy, and her family kind of leading her into that. Really interesting, I think, to see kind of where she came from. It's not delved into a lot, but it is delved into the movie a decent amount. And I really enjoyed her in this movie. However, she was not my favorite part of the movie. Actually, my favorite part of the movie, and I heard this from a lot of people, but I wasn't sure if I was going to agree with it, and I do. Florence Pugh is fantastic as, I already forget her name, Yelena. So she is Black Widow's sister, and she's great in this movie. There is an ongoing joke with her involving poses that I laughed like every time. It was a really funny gag that they kind of have going throughout this whole movie, and it was really funny. She's really good in this too. I would actually not have a problem with her being the new Black Widow. I think she's really good in this, and I think her dynamic with her and Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff, works really well. I think they had a lot of good bouncing back and forth with each other. Also, David Harbour in this movie is great. He plays Red Guardian. Of course, Stranger Things, that's what most people know David Harbour. Really hasn't been in a movie that much, well, besides the one that we won't talk about, but he is really good in this. This was kind of like, I think, the first big movie he's kind of had, and he's really good in this movie. He has some of the funniest lines, in my opinion. There's some really funny gags with him throughout this. He is really a standout in this. He's kind of a one-note character, also kind of a one-note joke too, but I think it works really well for what they're trying to do with it. Rachel Weisz isn't bad as the mother, but I don't know. I just feel that she was just not as good as the other three. I mean, she's not terrible or anything, but I just think she was kind of, I don't know, I would have probably written her a little bit better, especially because the other three are so good that she just doesn't live up to them, but she is okay in it, and she does the best with the material given, so I really can't blame her there. But easily, the best part of this movie, in my opinion, is the dynamic between the family. I think they all come off of each other really well, and whenever they are on screen, you see them talking back and forth. That's easily the best part of this movie. I think their dynamic together is great, and I would have loved to seen a lot more of that. And there is a lot of it in here, but I just think that a lot more of the movie should have focused on that, and it does, but we'll get into what I think about the other thing later. But they are really great in this movie, and they really do bounce off each other really well. Also, the action in this is great. It actually reminded me a lot of The Winter Soldier, with a lot of the action is hand-on-hand, especially in the first half of the movie. It's a lot of hand-on-hand combat, and I really enjoyed that. I think it is choreographed really well for the most part, and what I like is that it's a lot of fist fights, stunts, and stuff like that. It doesn't really focus on CGI, and I really greatly appreciated that. It's a really well-directed and choreographed movie. And I was really liking the movie for the first half of this movie. I'm like, wow, really enjoying this. This might actually be one of my favorite MCU movies, at least top 10. And then about halfway through this movie, I realized something. Taskmaster, they really don't show in the first half. He kind of just shows up, and they really don't explain really much about him. And then I think about halfway through this movie, they realized, oh shoot, we gotta use Taskmaster more. And to me, that's when this whole movie falls apart. When Taskmaster takes center stage about halfway through the movie, maybe even not even halfway. I would say actually more the third act of the movie. This movie just falls apart for me. No joke. Taskmaster is one of the worst MCU villains. He was done so wrong in this. It's not that the actor playing him did a bad job or anything like that. It's just that I think Taskmaster is just so lazily written. He's barely in the movie. You barely see him in the film. And it was really a letdown. Seeing Taskmaster was just one of the worst written MCU villains I think I've ever seen. Just completely pointless. Like I said, barely in the movie. It's a joke how much Taskmaster is in this. I will also say that the third act of this movie is an absolute mess. And I mean that. There's a fight you see in the trailer, and it's the last fight scene of the movie, where Black Widow's just kind of like falling down from this debris in the sky. That whole scene felt like a video game. It really felt like a video game cutscene. And not even like a good video game cut. There's good video game cutscenes. I mean like a jumbled one where everything's just being thrown at the screen and everything just turns into chaos. There's literally a part in the third act where you see somebody and there's a dummy. Now, if I wasn't telling this to you and you watched this movie, you probably wouldn't notice it. I heard about this online. People are saying it's really noticeable, like if somebody told you about it, and it is. There's a scene that involves a dummy, and it's so, you can tell it's a dummy, like kind of like a stunt dummy or something like that, but like you can tell it's a dummy, like which you're not supposed to. I will say somebody's just floating in a part of the movie during that scene, and it's so obvious. It was like, I was like, wow. And some of the CGI too in the third act is pretty bad. It's really just becomes a mess, I think, in the third act of this film. The second half also kind of just the story, like the first half it follows a story, but it kind of takes second stage, I felt, to the actual family part of it. Then the second act, they were kind of just like, all right, we got to put the story in full force. We haven't been focusing on it as much as we should, so they kind of just throw all this stuff at you in the final half of it. And it just kind of took me out of the movie, and I was really disappointed because the first half is so good. I really was enjoying the first half of this movie. And I was thinking I was really going to like it. I wouldn't say that I think this film is bad. I still would say I liked it, but the second half just really brought it down for me, which is a shame because, like I said, I thought it was doing so good the first half until the second half kind of just threw all this stuff in. Just kind of let me down. I was really disappointed. But like I said, it came so close. I was really liking it. And then the third act, just kind of, I thought everything just kind of fell down. So here's my final verdict on Black Widow. Although I think the first half is great, the second half just brought the film down for me, and I think the second half was just a total mess. Also, Taskmaster is one of the worst MCU villains. However, I will say that I still like the movie. It's not great. It's not anything like that, and I think it could have been great if the second half, but I still enjoyed it. There were still a lot of things I liked about it. I can't go too low on this one. I did enjoy it. So I am going to give Black Widow a 6 out of 10. Also, I am adding this part on while editing this video. I forgot to talk about this, but stay for the end credit scene. This is a non-spoiler review, so I technically cannot say anything about it, but the end credit scene, I was like, oh my gosh. The end credit scene is really good. You have to stay for it. It's not a mid-credit scene. It happens after all the credits. So do stay for that. So if you guys enjoyed this review, sorry, framing in this one's not that great. I'm not in my house and I'm on a chair that's really low. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I know it's a little bit late, but actually, if you want a really angry movie review, if I thought some of the stuff I talked about in this, I did like this movie. But if you want a more badly reviewed movie that I absolutely hated, get ready for my review of Space Jam 2. That one's going to be interesting. Alright, though. Have a great day. Bye.